I was standing in the shower trying to wash dried blood from my hair after her son accidentally hit me with a mop over the last slice of pizza. My wife leaned over and whispered, "Next time don't fidget. It might go straight down your throat." I got angry but kept silent. This morning my phone was flooded with missed calls. They were begging me to answer. I'm sitting here at some random coffee shop trying to calm my hands enough to type this out. Melissa and Brady are blowing up my phone with calls and messages, but I just needed somewhere quiet to think. Somewhere away from the house. I've been married to Melissa for a little over 3 years. She's 32. Her son from a previous marriage, Brady, just turned 16. When Melissa and I first got married, things were good enough. Brady was a little distant at first, which I expected. But he was polite, and we'd bond here and there, gaming a little on weekends, making casual small talk. Nothing close, but it felt like we were slowly building trust. I genuinely tried with that kid. I wanted to be part of his life, to be someone he could rely on. But about 8 months ago, something changed. It started small, little things like Brady skipping his chores, leaving his shoes and trash all over the living room, rolling his eyes when I asked him to clean up. Normal teenage stuff, right? I told myself it was a phase, nothing more. Then it got uglier. Brady started talking back more aggressively, but only when Melissa wasn't around. He'd mutter stuff under his breath, calling me rental dad and asking me when I was moving out like the rest. At first, I tried to laugh it off. But after a while, it got to me. When I brought it up to Melissa, she always had some excuse ready. He's sensitive about new male figures. It's a tough age. He's just scared of getting attached. And somehow, every conversation ended with me apologizing for even mentioning it. It was like quicksand. The more I tried to fix things, the deeper I sank. But I was committed. I told myself families take work. I ignored the little warning bells. Until 3 days ago. That day started like any other. I pulled a long shift at work, 12 brutal hours, barely had time to grab a sandwich around noon. When I finally made it home, I was exhausted and starving. I checked the fridge and saw one sad slice of pizza left from dinner. I heated it up, sat down at the kitchen table, and just as I took my first bite, Brady stomped in. "Give me that," he barked, pointing at my plate. I blinked at him, too tired to argue. "I just worked 12 hours and haven't eaten all day. There's cereal and sandwich stuff in the pantry," I said, trying to stay calm. He crossed his arms and glared. "Mom bought that pizza, not you," he snapped. I sighed. "I paid for the groceries yesterday," I reminded him, keeping my voice steady. He just scoffed. "Whatever, loser." I shook my head and took another bite. I figured he'd huff and stomp away. I didn't expect what happened next. Suddenly, I felt a sharp crack at the back of my head. Pain exploded behind my eyes. I stumbled forward, the pizza flying off my plate and onto the floor. Warm blood started running down my neck. I turned around in shock, and there was Brady, standing there with the wooden handle of a broom in his hands, grinning like he'd just pulled a prank. "Oh, sorry," he said casually. The broom slipped. The broom slipped. Right? While he was conveniently sweeping the air behind my head, I guess. Before I could even react, Melissa rushed in from the hallway. And instead of checking if I was okay, bleeding, disoriented, she immediately turned to Brady. "Brady, what did he do to you?" I stood there, blood dripping down onto the kitchen tiles, while my wife ran to protect her son. Brady spun some story about how he was just cleaning and the broom accidentally hit me. Melissa didn't question him for a second. She didn't even look at me. She tossed a handful of paper towels in my direction. "Clean it up before you stain the floor." No apology. No concern. Just annoyance. I stumbled into the bathroom, my head pounding. In the mirror, I could see a gash about 3 inches long on my scalp. It probably needed stitches. But at that point, I just didn't care. I cleaned up the best I could, wrapped my head in a towel, and went to bed without a word. Melissa didn't follow. She didn't check on me. She just stayed downstairs with Brady, laughing at some stupid TV show. The next morning at breakfast, Brady smirked at me over his bowl of cereal like he was proud of what he'd done. Melissa acted like everything was normal, chatting about weekend plans. I went to work that day still dizzy, still nauseous, but pretending everything was fine because I didn't know what else to do. That night, after dinner, I decided to take a long shower, mostly to wash out the dried blood stuck in my hair. I had my eyes closed, letting the hot water beat down on me when I felt that weird sensation that someone was nearby. I opened my eyes. Melissa was standing outside the glass shower door, just watching me. No expression on her face. She leaned closer to the door and, in a calm, almost cheerful voice, said, "Next time, don't flinch. Maybe he'll aim for your throat." Then she smiled. Actually smiled. Grabbed her lotion off the counter, and walked out without another word. I stood there under the now cold water, shaking. There was no way I misheard that. No way to twist it into a joke. Later that night, I checked my phone. A notification from our family group chat popped up. Melissa had sent a message but deleted it immediately after. Too late. I saw the preview. He's such a pushover, lol. Bleeding like a little bitch. That was it. That was the moment something inside me broke for good. Not anger. Not sadness. Just clarity. I wasn't part of a family. I was a paycheck. Target. A joke. That night, while they lounged in the living room, laughing at sitcoms, I sat quietly in the bedroom and started thinking. Really thinking, for the first time in months. They thought I was weak. They thought I would just keep taking it. They had no idea what was coming next. After that night in the shower, something shifted inside me permanently. I wasn't scared anymore. Not of Melissa, not of Brady, not even of what leaving might mean. I was cold now, focused. I knew I couldn't just pack a bag and storm out. Melissa wasn't the type to let go quietly. If I didn't do this smart, she'd twist everything around and make it look like I was the villain. Maybe even call the cops and spin some wild story about me being abusive. No, if I was going to escape this mess, I had to do it right. The next morning, I acted like nothing had happened. I went through the motions. Kissed Melissa on the cheek, joked with Brady at breakfast, pretended my head wasn't throbbing, that my heart wasn't hammering every second I was near them. Inside, I was ticking off boxes. Step 1. Secure my money. First chance I got, I left early for work, swung by a different bank across town, and opened a brand new personal account. All in my name. No ties to our joint account. No chance for Melissa to reach into it. Then, I updated my direct deposit information at work. Pulled my boss, Mike, aside. Told him there had been some banking issues and I needed my paycheck redirected immediately. No questions asked. Mike's one of the good ones. Step 2. Protect myself legally. I spent lunch breaks and late nights researching financial fraud, credit monitoring, emergency custody procedures, anything and everything that could become relevant. I ordered copies of our bank statements, my credit report, everything I could think of. And what I found made my stomach twist. Melissa hadn't just been quietly draining our joint savings into secret accounts. She had opened 3 credit cards in my name, 3, and maxed them out on crap like designer bags, gaming systems for Brady, weekend getaways I knew nothing about. Carefully hidden, of course. Paperless billing, minimum payments always made on time so I wouldn't notice. She was good at this. She'd probably done it before to someone else. When I added it all up, she had racked up over $8,000 in debt under my name. And I had been clueless. I took screenshots of everything. Saved files to encrypted cloud storage. Created backup copies on a thumb drive I kept hidden in my work locker. If Melissa wanted a war, I was going to be ready. Step 3. Gather undeniable proof. One night, while Melissa and Brady were zoned out watching TV downstairs, I carefully unlocked her laptop. She used the same password for everything Brady's birthday. Figures. In less than 10 minutes, I found enough dirt to make my skin crawl. Hundreds of text messages between her and Brady, laughing about me behind my back. Messages encouraging him to push my limits, to see how far they could go before I'd finally snap. Messages congratulating him after the broom incident, calling me pathetic for not doing anything about it. And then the real bombshell. Photos. Photos of her and Daniel, her ex, smiling together at restaurants, wrapped around each other in hotel rooms. Not ancient photos. Timestamps showed they were taken while she and I were married. 6 months ago, to be exact. She hadn't just been draining my accounts. She had been cheating on me with the same man she told me was a deadbeat loser. The same man she told Brady was abusive and didn't want him. And from the looks of it, she and Daniel had been planning a full reunion. Once she bled me dry, I felt physically sick. I had to sit down on the floor and just breathe for a few minutes to keep from throwing up. But I wasn't done yet. Step 4. Record everything. The next morning, I ordered a cheap voice-activated recorder online. about $40. It arrived 2 days later. I hid it under the couch in the living room where Melissa and Brady usually hung out after dinner. For 3 straight days, I let it run. When I finally listened to the recordings, it was worse than I could have imagined. Melissa calling me her walking ATM. Brady laughing about how he hit me with the broom and he didn't even fight back. Melissa on the phone with one of her friends, probably Wanda, saying she was working on Daniel to take her back once she got the house in both our names. They even joked about how they'd convince me to co-sign on a second mortgage so Melissa could get more cash before ditching me. Every time I thought I had reached the bottom of their betrayal, I found a new low. Step 5, find an ally. Desperate, I reached out to the one person Melissa had always painted as jealous and unstable. Her estranged sister, Irene. We met for coffee in a public place. I half expected some drama, but Irene turned out to be calm, grounded, and furious when I told her what was going on. Apparently, Melissa had pulled this same scam years ago, manipulated an older boyfriend, drained his bank accounts, and walked away without a second thought. Irene showed me texts and emails from back then. Pictures of jewelry that disappeared from their dying mother's house, jewelry that Melissa pawned for cash. And she warned me. If she's planning to leave, she'll try to make you look abusive first. It's part of the playbook. Everything clicked into place then. The insults, the provocation, the broomstick attack. It was all designed to push me into losing control so Melissa could walk away as the victim and cash in. I wasn't just escaping a bad marriage. I was dodging a full-blown setup. I kept smiling, kept eating dinner at the same table, kept pretending everything was normal. But inside I was done. Inside I was counting the days. Because when the time came, I wasn't just leaving. I was going to make damn sure they couldn't touch me again. By the end of those 2 weeks, I had everything ready. Every document backed up. Every cent moved out of reach. Every piece of evidence locked away safely. Now, I just needed my moment. And like clockwork, it came to me. One night over dinner, Melissa casually mentioned she was planning a weekend trip to visit her cousin, 3 hours away, and she was taking Brady with her. Would you be okay here by yourself for a couple of days? She asked, fake concern dripping from her voice. I forced a tight smile. Yeah, I'll survive. Inside, I could barely keep from smiling. This was it. As soon as they pulled out of the driveway that Friday afternoon, I went into action. First, I went to the bank and withdrew half of what was left in our joint account. Only my half. I wasn't about to stoop to Melissa's level. I documented everything carefully, screenshots, printed statements, just in case she tried to accuse me of stealing later. Then I called 2 of my closest friends, Dave and Marcus. Within an hour, they showed up with a rented moving truck. No questions, no judgment, just quiet support. We spent the next 8 hours clearing out everything that was mine. Furniture I bought before we were married. My electronics, my clothes, my tools, my keepsakes. Even my grandfather's old guitar, the one thing I would have burned the house down for if they tried to keep. Everything was loaded up and moved into a small apartment I'd secretly rented a week earlier. Not fancy, not big, but it was mine. And most importantly, Melissa didn't know where it was. I left all of Melissa's and Brady's things untouched. Left the couch I bought, but left their beds, their clothes, Brady's gaming setup. I'm not heartless. The kid might have been manipulated, but he was still just a teenager caught in his mother's web. Before I left the house for the last time, I placed 3 things on the kitchen table. 1. A thick folder containing copies of everything, bank statements, screenshots of conversations, photographs, audio transcripts. 2. A note written in bold black ink. I know everything. Lawyer up. 3. My house key. No explanations. No arguments. No goodbyes. I closed the door behind me without looking back. Saturday and Sunday, I spent setting up my new place, assembling furniture, getting the internet hooked up, changing all my passwords, locking down my credit files with fraud alerts. It was exhausting, but it was the most satisfying exhaustion I'd ever felt. I slept on my new bed that night without flinching at every sound. Without listening for footsteps creeping outside my door. Without the fear that someone might hit me again when my back was turned. For the first time in a long time, the silence was peaceful. Not terrifying. Sunday evening at exactly 7:43 p.m., my phone exploded. 28 missed calls in 30 minutes. Melissa, Brady, even Wanda, Melissa's best friend, tried reaching me. Voicemails ranged from furious screaming, to sobbing, to threats of calling the police, to desperate pleas begging me to come back. Texts came flooding in too. You can't just leave. What's wrong with you? We need to talk. Please don't do this to Brady. Please, Ryan. Please come home. I didn't answer. I didn't even open most of them. Instead, I forwarded everything to my lawyer, who I had hired the week before. He told me, do not engage. Every message now goes through me. I nodded and blocked every number connected to Melissa and her circle. That night, I sat on the floor of my new place, eating cheap Chinese takeout straight from the box, and realized something crazy. I was free. Not totally, there would be a messy divorce ahead. Fraud charges. Credit repair. Custody battles between Melissa and Daniel. But for the first time in years, I wasn't trapped anymore. I didn't owe anyone an explanation. I didn't have to fix their mess. They had built their own destruction, and now, finally, they would have to live in it. The next morning, I woke up to a new wave of insanity. Screenshots from mutual acquaintances, Melissa blowing up Facebook and Instagram, painting me as some monster who abandoned his family without warning. Fake sob stories about how Brady was devastated, how she didn't understand what happened. Pleading for sympathy from anyone who would listen. What she didn't realize was that I had already sent full packets of evidence, including proof of financial fraud and cheating, to her employer, her family, and Arthur's lawyer. Melissa was about to find out that actions have consequences. And I was just getting started. The first morning after I left, I woke up in my tiny apartment, momentarily confused. For a split second, I forgot where I was. No sound of Brady stomping around. No Melissa sighing dramatically from the kitchen. Just silence. And it was the most beautiful silence I'd heard in years. I made myself coffee with a cheap little machine I grabbed from a discount store on my way to moving in. Sat on my air mattress, drinking bad coffee, watching the sun come through the blinds, crooked because I hadn't figured out how to fix them yet. And I smiled. For the first time in years, I didn't feel like I was walking on eggshells. When I finally checked my old phone, there were over 80 missed calls overnight. Texts. Voicemails, emails, even social media DMs from accounts I didn't recognize, Melissa's friends, probably. At first, it was all rage. Then confusion. Then desperate pleading. I didn't answer any of it. Instead, I moved to the next phase of my plan. Phase 1, expose the truth. I sent an email to Daniel, Brady's father. I attached copies of the evidence I had, financial records, photos of Melissa and Daniel together during our marriage, proof she'd been lying to him and the courts for years about child support and visitation. Daniel called me 2 hours later. We talked for nearly an hour, calm, direct. No drama. He thanked me for telling him the truth. He'd been fighting to stay connected to his son for years and now had the ammunition he needed to set things right. Phase 2, professional fallout. Next, I forwarded select screenshots and financial records to Melissa's employer. Not with dramatic accusations, just a simple inquiry asking if it was company policy for employees to pocket client reimbursements for meetings that never happened. I didn't hear back from them directly, but I didn't need to. Melissa's meltdown on Facebook a few days later told me everything. Suspended pending an internal investigation. A fancy way of saying your days here are numbered. Phase 3, family detonation. In the following days, I started quietly contacting Melissa's extended family, people she hadn't spoken to in months or even years. Her parents, her aunts and uncles, her cousins. I didn't launch into rants or accusations. I simply said, I'm sorry it ended this way. I love being part of your family. Unfortunately, I discovered some things I can't ignore. I thought you deserved to know. And I attached documents. Screenshots. Bank statements. Pictures. Everything. Within 3 days, her family knew everything. And they weren't happy. Melissa's mother, who had once treated me like a son, called her, demanding explanations. Her father, a man who barely spoke a dozen words at family gatherings, was reportedly furious about the credit card fraud. Her aunt, who had once loaned her money based on lies Melissa told about me being financially abusive, threatened to sue her for fraud. Meanwhile, my lawyer filed for divorce and launched fraud reports for the credit cards Melissa had opened under my name. He also filed an official police report about the broom attack. We weren't pressing charges against Brady. The kid needed help, not a criminal record, but it was important to have everything documented in case Melissa tried anything stupid later. By day 5, Daniel's lawyer filed a motion to revisit custody based on the new evidence. Turns out lying to a family court about the other parent isn't exactly smiled upon. By day 7, Melissa's employer terminated her officially, citing financial impropriety. By day 10, I finally answered one of her calls. She was crying so hard she could barely breathe, begging me to stop whatever I was doing, claiming I had ruined her life, that she was about to lose everything: her job, custody, her family support, and the house which she couldn't afford without my income. I didn't say much. Just one thing. Everything that's happening is because of choices you made. Then I hung up. No yelling. No name calling. No guilt. She built this. Now she had to live in it. About 2 weeks later, something unexpected happened. I got a message request on Discord from Brady. At first, I almost deleted it without reading. But curiosity won. His message wasn't what I expected. No insults. No blaming. Just, I didn't know about the credit cards or the stuff with my dad. Can we talk? We agreed to meet at a neutral public place, a coffee shop near my apartment. When I saw him, he looked smaller somehow. Not the cocky kid from before. His shoulders were hunched. His eyes were hollow. He told me Melissa had been lying to him for years about Daniel, about everything. That after I left, Daniel reached out directly and showed him the truth. Screenshots. Letters. Proof of all the missed birthdays and blocked visits. Brady was devastated. His whole world turned upside down. He apologized. Sincerely. Not some half-assed forced apology. He admitted hitting me with the broom wasn't an accident, that Melissa had been coaching him for months to push me, to provoke me, to make me snap so she could play the victim. I didn't forgive him on the spot. Some wounds take time. But I told him I was proud of him for starting to see the truth. And that he deserved better than being used as a weapon. Last I heard, Brady moved in with Daniel full-time while custody gets sorted out. He's in therapy. He's back in school. Trying to heal. Just like I am. As for Melissa? She's living with her friend Wanda now. Selling her designer bags online to make rent. The house is in foreclosure. Turns out she hadn't been paying the mortgage for months, just pocketing my payments. Her social media is a mess, 1 minute posting selfies, the next vague posts about betrayal and starting over. Nobody's buying it anymore. Her own family has cut ties with her completely. A few weeks ago, I was driving home after grabbing some takeout and a song came on the radio. It was one Melissa used to love. Before, that would have sent me spiraling. This time, I just cranked the volume up, rolled down the windows, and sang along. I realized then. I'm okay. I'm really truly okay. No more walking on eggshells. No more living in fear. No more bleeding for people who laugh while I hurt. Just peace. Boring, beautiful, blessed peace. And for the first time in what feels like forever. I'm excited to see where life goes next.